Very good morning, students. Today we are going to see the topic structure and functions of nephron. As we know that well, like in the previous class we discussed about the structure and functions of kidney, and as I informed you that like the structural unit of kidney is nephron. About that only in today's class we are going to see now. A kidney is composed of enormous number of uriniferous tubules, and they are also called as nephrons or renal tubules or kidney tubules. Okay, again I'll tell you the structure of kidney, if you look into it possesses outer cortex and inner medulla, right? So inside the kidney we can find numerous nephron, and nephron, it is also called as uriniferous tubule. We can call that as a renal tubule. It is also called as kidney tubules. Right. The nephrons are the structural and functional unit of kidney, and each kidney it is formed of 1 million nephrons, right? Actually, we have a pair of kidney, but even in the pair of kidney, like in one kidney, we can find nearly 1 million nephrons, and nephrons are held together by the connective tissue.
Nephron, structure and functions. Objective: to understand the structure of a nephron in detail. The excretory system in human beings consists of a pair of kidneys. A magnified view of the longitudinal section of kidney shows two prominent regions, a cortex and a medulla. As we zoom into the cortex region, it shows the presence of numerous nephrons.
Right, just to see the picture, which is given the structure of nephron. On seeing this structure, you can find that the nephron consists of three major parts. Just find it is of three major parts. Comprises of three parts. They are: number one, Malpighian capsule. Right? If you see the Malpighian capsule in this picture, it is of two major things. It comprises of Bowman capsule and glomerulus. Right? So Bowman capsule and glomerulus together called as Malpighian capsule. Right? So the first part is Malpighian capsule, and second one is renal tubule. The second part is renal tubule. Under the renal tubule, it possesses three major parts. Number one, proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, and third one is distal convoluted tubule. So these are all the three major parts which comes under the renal tubule. And the third major part of the nephron is collecting duct. Right? Again I'll repeat, the nephron consists of three major parts. They are Malpighian capsule, comprises of Bowman capsule and glomerulus. And number two is renal tubule. It composed of proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, and distal convoluted tubule. And the third one is the collecting duct. Now we are going to see about the parts in detail. Number one is about the Malpighian capsule, right? So if you see the Malpighian capsule, as I already said, it comprises of Bowman capsule and inside is a glomerulus. So first we will see what is a Bowman capsule. It lies in the cortex. What is a cortex? The kidney. Just think about it. Kidney, outer region is cortex and inner region is medulla. So the Bowman capsule lies in the cortex region, okay, and it is a thin double wall. How it looks like? It looks like a cup-like depression. The Bowman capsule looks like a cup-like depression, and it is blind end of the nephron. So if you see the structure of the nephron, it is a very blind end of the nephron. The glomerulus is located in the concave depression of the Bowman's capsule. The Bowman capsule and the glomerulus together, as I already said, or these two together, which is called as a Malpighian capsule, it is also called as renal capsule. The outer layer of the Bowman capsule is made up of flattened epithelial cells. Okay, so each part may composed of different types of cells, and here the outer layer of the Bowman capsule is made up of flattened epithelial cells. and the inner layer which is very close contact with the glomerulus, and it possesses special cells which is called as podocyte. It is very important. The Bowman capsule, here the inner layer which composed of a podocyte, a special type of cell is called as podocytes, and these have many feet-like processes which is called as a pedicel, and minute slits which we can find inside which is called as a slit pores. So podocyte which contains feet-like processes called as a pedicel and minute slit which is called as slit pores. Now we are going to see about the glomerulus. So just to see the image, so outside is the Bowman capsule, inside we can find the glomerulus. So glomerulus, it is a tuft of anastomizing blood capillaries. What is anastomizing? Anastomizing means interconnected. So inside the Bowman capsule we can find a cluster of blood capillaries which has been interconnected, formed by a fine branches of the afferent arteriole. So the one which get into the Bowman capsule is the afferent arteriole, and these capillaries of the glomerulus again unite to efferent arteriole. So once it enter as the afferent, and from there it moves out as the efferent. So afferent, efferent. The afferent arteriole is wider. What is the major difference between these is the afferent arteriole, see you can find in the picture also, the afferent arteriole is wider than that of the efferent arteriole, and the afferent arteriole brings the blood into the glomerulus, while efferent arteriole collect the blood from the glomerulus. So one get into it is the afferent. From the glomerulus which collect the blood from the glomerulus to outside is the efferent.
Bowman's capsule. Bowman's capsule is a double-walled cup present in the renal cortex. It is lined by a thin and semi-permeable epithelium of flat cells. There is a group of blood capillaries called glomerulus in the cavity of Bowman's capsule. Glomerulus is formed by the division of afferent arteriole. Bowman's capsule and glomerulus are collectively called Malphian body or renal corpuscle. Glomerulus is the site of filtration under pressure called ultrafiltration. The filtrate formed by glomerulus is therefore known as glomerular or nephric filtrate.
Now we are going to see the second part which we are going to see is the renal tubule. So as I already said, under the renal tubule it is of three major areas. Number one is we can call that as a PCT. What is PCT? Proximal convoluted tubule. What is that convoluted? Convoluted means like a coiled, folded, a complex structure, folded, keep on like a many foldings will be there. So that is called as a convoluted. So the first part in the renal tubule is proximal convoluted tubule. It lies in the cortex region. As I already said, the kidney outer region is the cortex. So the PCT which we can find lies near the cortex, and it is also known as first convoluted tubule. The Bowman's capsule continues into the PCT. It is lined with a layer of columnar epithelial cells. As I already said, each and every part may lined with different types of cells, and from the Bowman capsule, which the next part is the PCT, and it has been lined with the columnar epithelial cells. Not only that, this columnar cells which possess so many numerous microvilli, what is the function of that is to increase the surface area of the absorption. For the absorption purpose, like the surface area has to be increased. For that, like a microvilli may helpful, right? So what is the use of a microvilli here? To increase the surface area of the absorption. Next part is the loop of Henle, right? So under the renal tubule, like three major parts. The first one is a PCT and second one is loop of Henle. Right. So under the loop of Henle, it lies the location is it lies in the medulla. So in the kidney, the outer region is called as a cortex and inner region is the medulla. And where we can find the loop of Henle? Yeah, it lies in the medulla. And very important point here is it is a U shape, right? So into the nephron, if you see the nephron, the U-shaped loop what is the name called as a loop of Henle. It is in a U shape and it is a not convoluted. So as I already said, what is a convoluted? Convoluted means coiled structure, right? Complex, coiled, folding, right? So, but the PCT and DCT, that is distal convoluted tubule only, it will be foldings we can find. But in the loop of Henle, it is not a folded one, so it is not a convoluted. It has a descending limbs and ascending limbs. So, as I already said, it is a U-shaped loop, so it possesses a descending and one ascending limbs, and each limbs has a thick region, and it moved towards the cortex, and the thin region towards the medulla. This U-shaped tube also, if you see near the kidney, cortex region, this U-shaped loop also will be thicker. If it nearing to the cortex, the loop will be thicker, and nearing to the medulla, the region will be little thin than that. Okay, the thick regions are lined with the, how it may differ means, because the thick region is lined with the columnar epithelial cells, and the thin regions are lined with the flat epithelial cells. Because of that only, the thickness may vary. Thick region is lined with the columnar epithelium, and thin region is lined with the flat epithelial cells. Right? The next one is about the distal convoluted tubule. So again I'll repeat. So under the renal tubule, the first one is a proximal convoluted tubule, and second is a loop of Henle, and now we are going to see about the distal convoluted tubule. It lies in the cortex region. So just to see the image which is given here, it lies in the cortex region, and its short terminal part is called as a collecting tubule. Okay, and the next part is a collecting tubule. The collecting tubule, then it may opens into the collecting duct. So from the distal convoluted tubule, it moves towards a collecting tubule and then join towards a collecting duct. And a very important point over here is DCT is lined with the ciliated columnar epithelium, right? So before that, as I said, loop of Henle, yeah, the thick region with the columnar epithelium, thin region with the epithelial, flattened epithelial cells, and the proximal convoluted is lined with the columnar epithelial cells. Like that, this distal convoluted tubule also lined with the ciliated, the term you just noted down, ciliated columnar epithelial cells. Okay. Now, we will enter into the third major part of the nephron, what it is called as collecting duct. The collecting duct receives the content of many renal tubules, right? It will collect all the things which has been runs through all these renal tubule on Malpighian capsule and reaches the collecting duct. The collecting duct is a large duct which receives the collecting tubules of several nephrons, and this passes into the renal medulla and then join with each other to form a duct of Bellini. Right, so the collecting duct passes into the renal medulla and then join with each other to form a ducts of Bellini. Okay, the ducts of Bellini runs through the renal pyramids and opens into the calyces. You just recall the structure of the kidney, where it is the pyramid, renal pyramid, followed by calyces. Just to see the structure of the kidney, just you can imagine like where is a renal pyramid. So from the ducts of Bellini, it runs through the renal pyramid of the kidney. From the pyramid again it opens into the calyces, and all the calyces opens into the pelvis region, and from the pelvis urine is carried to the urinary bladder through the ureter. So this is a path, right? So again I'll repeat, the nephron consists of three major parts. First with the Malpighian capsule, right? What is Malpighian capsule? It is a combination of Bowman capsule and glomerulus. And second one, the renal tubule, that is PCT, loops of Henle and distal convoluted tubule. And followed by the third one is a collecting.
Each nephron has a Bowman's capsule, a proximal convoluted tubule, a loop of Henle, a distal convoluted tubule that leads to a collecting duct. Nephrons are convoluted in the cortex region and straighten out as loops in the medulla region. Each nephron has a Bowman's capsule, which is a cup-shaped structure that has a layer made of squamous epithelial cells. In the cavity of the Bowman's capsule, there is a bundle of capillaries known as the glomerulus. The blood vessel entering the Bowman's capsule is known as the efferent arteriole and is thicker than the blood vessel exiting the capsule, which is thinner and is known as the efferent arteriole. The Bowman's capsule and the glomerulus together form the Malpighian body. This capsule extends into the proximal convoluted tubule (PCT) on the inner side. This tubule is lined by a brush-bordered epithelium with numerous microvilli. This PCT leads into the loop of Henle, which lies in the medulla region. It is U-shaped and has a descending limb and an ascending limb. This further leads into the distal convoluted tubule, which is again seen in the cortex region, and it finally joins the collecting duct.
Now we are going to see about the functioning of nephrons, right? So till now we discussed about the three major parts of the nephron. Now what is the major function has been done by the nephron? We will see now. The blood which enters into the kidney through the artery, renal, as the previous class as I said, the artery, the blood vessel which are related to the kidney is called as renal, right? So the blood enters the kidney through the renal artery, which branches into many capillaries associated with the glomerulus, and the water and the solutes are transferred to the nephron at the Bowman's capsule, right? So you can find that. So the blood enters through the renal artery, and here the water and also the solute are transferred to the nephron at the Bowman capsule region. Now, first, in the proximal tubule, the first one, PCT, right? Some substances. What is the function of the PCT means? Here, some substances such as amino acids, glucose, and also the salts. Okay, amino acid, glucose, and salts. All these substances are selectively reabsorbed, and the unwanted molecules are added into the urine. The remaining, the needed substances like amino acids or glucose or salts, it will get selectively reabsorbed. Okay. And the filtrate then slowly moves towards a loop of Henle. In the PCT itself, the needed material like amino acid, glucose and all get reabsorbed. And the unwanted material slowly it will move to the next part, what it is called as a loop of Henle, where more water is absorbed. What is the major function of the loop of Henle means? Here more water get absorbed. Okay, and from here the filtrate moves into the third part, what it is called as distal tubule, right, DCT, and then towards the collecting duct. The collecting duct collects the urine from the nephron. Many nephrons, the duct which will collect the urine from many nephrons, and the urine formed in each kidney enters a long tube which is called as a ureter. From ureter it gets transported to the urinary bladder and then towards the urethra. So this is what about the function of the nephron.
As blood flows through the glomerulus, water, salts and waste diffuse into the Bowman's capsule. This liquid then passes into the PCT and the loop of Henle, where water and important salts are absorbed back into the blood vessel. Only the waste material like urea and some water molecules proceed into the DCT, where more water may get absorbed into the interstitial fluid. This liquid formed is the urine, which is released into the collecting duct. This finally trickles through the kidney into the ureter, which helps the passage of urine into the urinary bladder. After a while, the urine can be excreted from the bladder.
Now, we are going to see about what are the three major stages needed for the formation of the urine. by the filtration of the blood through the nephron. So still now what we discussed is how the blood get filtered through the nephron with the usage of a nephron in the kidney. Now we are going to see what are the three major stages which involved in the formation of the urine in the kidney, which may includes number 1, glomerular filtration. We cannot say simply filtration, it is a glomerular ultrafiltration. Okay, so the filtration which occurs in the Bowman capsule, Malpighian capsule, no, it is called as a ultrafiltration. So the first step is glomerular filtration. Second step, tubular reabsorption. As I already said, from the Bowman capsule it moves towards the Henle's loop, right, the renal tubule. The renal tubule major function is reabsorption of the needed material. Okay, so the second step is reabsorption. Third one is tubular secretion. After the reabsorption, the unwanted things get secrete as a urine. So these are all the three major steps involved in the urine formation. Again I'll repeat: glomerular ultrafiltration, tubular reabsorption, and tubular secretion. Under that, number 1, glomerular filtration. Here the urine formation begins when the blood is filtered by the glomerulus, and then it may enters into the Bowman capsule, and which get collected, no, after the filtration it gets collected. It is called as a glomerular filtrate. Okay, and now you people know what is the afferent arteriole, the blood, the vessel which carries the blood towards the Bowman capsule, that is the afferent, right? So the afferent arteriole entering the glomerulus is wider than that of the efferent arteriole in the diameter, and this increases the blood pressure within the glomerulus, helps in the filtration. Because of that thickness variation is there, no, because of that it creates the blood pressure. Because of that blood pressure, it helps in the filtration. Okay, and the glomerular filtrate is formed of all the blood constitute except the corpuscles and the plasma protein. Glomerular filtrate is formed of all the blood constituent. Like what is the composition of the blood? All the components will be present except the corpuscles, that is RBC, WBC. So the corpuscles will not be there, and also the plasma protein. So except that, all other content will be present. Okay, so this is about the glomerular filtration. Again I'll tell, under the glomerular filtration, how the filtration may occur. That is because of the variation in the thickness in the afferent and the efferent arteriole. Because of that, the blood pressure created and filtration takes efficiently. The second one is tubular reabsorption. When the glomerular filtrate comes to the proximal tubule, so now next to the Malpighian capsule, now it enters into the renal tubule. Under the renal tubule, the first one is the proximal tubule. Here the essential nutrients get reabsorbed. As I already said, the essential nutrients such as the glucose, amino acids, water, even the ions like sodium, potassium, chloride, bicarbonate, magnesium, calcium, all these substances get reabsorbed from the glomerular filtrate. And when the filtrate finally comes to the collecting duct, ADH, it is very, very important. In the case of the reabsorption, you can find this ADH. What is the name of the hormone? Antidiuretic hormone. What is the name of the hormone? Antidiuretic hormone. So when the filtrate finally comes to the region which is called as collecting duct, so in the tubular region, after crossing the loop of Henle and distal convoluted tubule, it enters into the collecting duct, where we can find the hormone called as ADH. What is ADH? Antidiuretic hormone. It acts, and this also used for the reabsorption of the excess amount of water, and it decreases the urine volume. So the ADH major function is for the reabsorption of the excess amount of water, so that it will decreases the volume of the urine formation. Okay, so that is the second major step involved in the urine formation. What is that? Tubular reabsorption. The next is tubular secretion. When the glomerular filtrate is in the proximal tubule, like a creatinine, uric acid are secreted in it. And when the filtrate, like as already I informed you, the nitrogenous waste, that is, what are they? Urea, uric acid, creatinine. So these substances, when the glomerular filtrate, it is present in the proximal tubule such as a creatine, uric acid are secreted in it, and when the filtrate goes to the distal part, the urea, potassium ions and even some hydrogen ions also secreted in the form of a urine. So this is the major steps which involved in the tubular secretion. Right, so I hope that it is very clear what are the three major steps which is involved in the urination. One is glomerular filtration, tubular reabsorption, tubular secretion. Now about the urine. It is a transparent fluid produced by the urinary system. Okay, so it is a transparent fluid which is being produced by the urinary system. The color of the urine is yellow. This is because of the presence of, what is the name of the pigment called? Urochrome, right? See, actually in our blood it will be red because of the pigment called hemoglobin. Like that, the urine usually it will be in yellowish in color. This is because of the pigment called as urochrome pigment, formed from the breakdown of the hemoglobin of dead RBC. So from the dead RBC it secretes a pigment which is called as a urochrome, and because of that urochrome the urine get a color as a yellow. And urine contains 95%, the constituent or the composition of the urine is, it contains 95% water, 2.5% of organic waste. The organic waste such as what? Urea, uric acid, creatine, some hormones and vitamins even, etc. And 1.5% of inorganic waste such as sodium, magnesium, calcium and even iodine, etc. Right? So this is a composition of the urine. So under that, the 95% it constitutes water, 2.5% with the organic waste, right, and 1.5 with the inorganic waste. So in today's class we studied about the structure and the functions of the nephron. Each nephron consists of three major parts. They are Müller's capsule, renal tubule and followed by the collecting duct, right? And followed by, we studied that what is the steps involved in the urine formation. They are number 1 ultrafiltration, number 2 reabsorption and number 3 tubular secretion. So these are all the three major steps which are involved in the urine formation. And also we studied about the urine, how the urine get its color as a yellow, that is because of the urochrome pigment, and also what is the composition of the urine. In the next class, we will have a discussion about the renal failure and what is dialysis, and also what are the roles of the endocrine system in the urination. Thank you, children.